Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar on mental health in the construction industry. And we're just going to give another minute. We've got people logging on here right now, so we'll just wait until about 2:01, 2:02, and then we'll get started. Happy to say that technology is in our favor today.
Yay.
For those just logging in, if there's any new ones, we're just going to wait until 2:02 and then we'll get started. People a chance to jump on. All right, let's get the ball rolling. So, on behalf of MCA Canada, I'd like to welcome everybody to this very important webinar on this very important topic. It's very near and dear to my heart, and it is something that MCA Canada is focusing a lot of its efforts on this year, the promotion of mental health and how we can assist our colleagues in times of discomfort that they may have. MCA Canada is promoting the 988 crisis number that the federal government has set up. We've got some materials. Jessica, I think, is going to share a link with how you can obtain those materials in a toolbox from MCA Canada. And as luck would have it, I happened to meet Coralie through LinkedIn and saw that she had done some really great work on the mental health in the construction industry. I was just telling Coralie before we got on the line that I actually was in London for a conference a few weeks ago, and it just so happened that there was a mental health session on the issue in the construction industry, and it was amazing. And their stats are quite alarming. And I don't have the exact stat for Canada, maybe Coralie knows, but in the construction industry in the UK, there's 2 people that die every day as a result of mental health issues. So I would like to turn things over to Coralie. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself. My name is Tanya Johnston. I'm the CEO of MCA Canada. And if you have any questions for Coralie, you can put them in the chat today. I apologize profusely for our technology issues we ran into last week. Technology is great when it works, but we've got it working today, and we've got Coralie here. So if you've got questions for her, please put them into the chat, and then we'll address them with her as we go through the seminar. So Coralie, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you very much. I did want to start by just actually maybe I'll just like to say that thank you to Tanya and MCA Canada for having me today. Just like you, Tanya, this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and I think that yeah, I do have a couple of stats, not necessarily Canada specific, but very similar in Canada, and it is something that I think that having more conversations will help more people, and just normalizing this conversation. I'm really hopeful the more we can talk about it, the more it'll just become, just like our physical health, it becomes our mental health, like just, you know, the same weight as far as, you know, the importance of it. I'll start sharing my screen here. Just 1 second.
I'm going to turn mine off. I don't think people need to see my face for the next hour, but I'm here. I'm just, and I'll monitor the chat for you.
Okay, and I guess I'll do an intro of myself before I get started. My name is Coralie. My company is Thrive HQ, and I'm actually a fractional COO and business consultant for the construction industry. So you might ask, like, where does mental health come into this? And I'll say right up front that I am not in any way a counselor, a therapist, or a professional in any way when it comes to mental health. What I do have is many years of experience in the industry. And what's funny is until last week when I was about to present this, my my reason for being so passionate about mental health, I always attributed to the employees that I had that I saw struggle on a very weekly, daily basis with their mental health, and just knowing that there wasn't much that I can do. And when I was thinking about this last week, what I realized is that it goes a little deeper than that, because one of my very close family members suffers horribly, and there's nothing I can do except for listen. And so I want to spread the word and just normalize this thing, so that I don't mean to get emotional, but it was kind of a fresh realization for me. It's just not the construction industry. Construction industry is something I love wholeheartedly and dearly. I've been here for almost 30 years. And to couple that with, the importance of a family member that's specifically suffering, and also the people that I saw around me. So this is something I am really passionate about, and I've had a lot of experience just living it. So that's kind of where I'm coming from on this front. Let me start sharing my screen here. Share. Can everybody see that okay? I'm going to assume you can, because I can't see anyone. So. Okay, great. Thank you. So yes, I would like to start by just saying that these conversations are really important. And when I was working with my employees through these things, what I saw was they had a lot of shame. I could see the shame, the guilt, and all the bad, heavy feelings, and they always tried to hide behind it. And all I wanted to do was kind of fix things for them. And I knew that I couldn't, because their issues ran a lot deeper than I really had the skill set to manage. What I could do, though, is I could listen, and I could be there for them for whatever they need. And the sad reality is that the construction industry does have a high level of stress and demands and judgment. Like, those are all very high, and there's a low level of tolerance and acceptance, which combined creates a space where it is difficult to admit you need help and ask for it. The people here that are fortunate enough not to suffer from mental health challenges, the value here is for you to learn to identify signs in others that may be suffering around you, suffering in silence, and being able to lend some support. And for those of you that are here that are suffering from mental health challenges right now, this is really a conversation for you, and to understand that you're not alone, and everybody is suffering to some extent. The goal of this presentation is to provide you with information and resources needed to support your mental health and well-being, as well as those around you. So by normalizing this conversation, I'm hopeful that we can break down the stigma that surrounds it and make seeking help a lot more accessible for people. So the need, this is of the major occupational groups, construction has significantly high rates, as Tanya said at the beginning, of suicide for both men and women. In the US, and it depends on what stats you look at, stats show, at least the ones that I was looking at recently, that construction is the #1 highest suicide rate of all industries. And for this, it's an obvious need that we need to have these conversations. We need to, this is a problem, a significant problem that needs to be dealt with. I don't have the specific data, because Canada doesn't do the research at this level yet. But it is expected to be proportionate. And as you can see here, point number 2 is that approximately 5,500 suicides each year in the US, which is 3.5 times greater than that of the national average. And as I mentioned earlier, physical safety is always a top concern for our construction sites, because it's such a high-risk environment. We take extra care and attention to make sure people are physically safe. However, physical safety is only one part of a person's overall safety and well-being. The mental and emotional well-being have historically not been considered in health and safety of our workers. And with these staggering suicide rates and just the numbers of people suffering, we clearly need to be putting more attention on the mental health aspect of safety. So in our presentation today, we're going to be talking about the gender differences in mental health. We're going to be talking about the stigma surrounding mental health challenges, understanding the barriers to seeking help, and overcoming the stigma. We're going to talk about self-care, which is a huge piece, and I think a lot of people maybe like push it aside and don't give it the attention that it actually needs. And then we're going to talk about building a culture of support and give some resources to seek help. And we're going to start with the gender differences. And the thing is, men and women experience different risk factors, symptoms, and coping mechanisms for their mental health. And we'll look at each one and recognize the differences. And we'll start with the risk factors. And they are different, but they obviously share quite a bit as well. So we'll look at both of those. So the risk factors for men, a lot of them are stereotypical male challenges, which is stigma associated with asking for help appears to be weak. Construction work is physically demanding and can involve long hours, heavy lifting, and exposure to extreme temperatures. And this can lead to physical exhaustion, which can in turn impact mental health. And although women, of course, are obviously doing the same work in the same environment, I think there's more pressure, or there is more pressure for men to be men and not ask for help or use assistance or anything like that, which kind of increases the burden. There's also the pressure to conform to traditional masculine norms, be the man, and that kind of mentality is suck it up. And everybody, tries to, well, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people have to cater to that environment and feel like they need to step it up and not complain or not show any signs of weakness. And that just deteriorates your worth, your confidence, and your ability to ask for help. And then there is the culture of toughness, and that discourages the vulnerability or emotional expression. And a male-dominated workplace can have a significant impact on the prevalence of mental health issues for both men and women. And in many male-dominated industries, there's a culture of this masculinity and toughness that can make it difficult for people to acknowledge and seek help. So for women, on the other hand, although they too can be affected by this tough guy mentality of the industry, they can also suffer from gender-based discrimination, including unequal treatment or harassment based on gender, contributing to the hostile or toxic environment that we often experience. Women are often overlooked for advancement with their achievements and potential, frequently being unrecognized, which means, they when they are good at doing a thing, they usually are stuck to doing that one thing and not given the opportunities until they're proven that they can do something. And that's so that they're overlooked for advancement, but then they're also not given the opportunities to grow their skills or try something new, because when they do show that they're good at a task, they're kind of left to that task as opposed to being challenged to do new things. And then women also often feel isolated due to the lack of female peers or inclusive policies within the workplace, which can lead to feelings of loneliness and disconnectedness. And then there are the challenges of juggling demanding work schedules and still typically being seen as the primary caregiver in a family. That can be particularly taxing, which leads to a lot of stress and burnout. And I think that I've spoken to a lot of women and men in this industry, and although this is something I hear often from women as far as the family obligations that come into the increasing the stress, there's also a lot of single dads that are also trying to manage that. This is also an issue for us, just we see it a lot more in women. And so these are some of the common factors that can increase the risk of people suffering. And some of the similarities, a lot of the symptoms of mental health issues are shared between men and women. However, there can be some significant differences. So here we're looking at similar symptoms, and that includes, these are things that you can watch out for, or that you'll see a lot of it, or you'll see commonly, is that using drugs or alcohol more frequently or heavily than usual. This could be a sign of them self-medicating and the way that they're using to cope. Avoiding social situations or isolating themselves from others. It could be a sign that they're struggling. Physical symptoms such as headaches, fatigue, or gastrointestinal problems. Also experiencing insomnia, sleeping more than usual, or having difficulty falling or staying asleep. Other symptoms include no longer interested in hobbies or activities that they used to enjoy. Or they may be expressing feelings of hopelessness or helplessness, or they seem to have lost faith in their ability to make positive changes in their career or their life. And fatigue, which of course can be connected back to the sleeping challenges that they often, whether it be insomnia or not being able to stay asleep, just overall fatigue, then which can also affect, your ability to focus. So you can oftentimes they'll have a more challenging time focusing, and then also consistently missing deadlines or struggling to complete tasks. Those are all symptoms that you may recognize on the job site or in your environment where somebody may be suffering. And I don't know about you, but for this list, it's like I think all of us have suffered from these things at one point or another. And the problem comes in when it lasts for an extended period of time and you can't seem to shake it, and it starts to affect your day-to-day operations or your ability to function. So here what we're looking at is the differences that you may see in the symptoms. And some of the behaviors that you're more likely to see from men include risk-taking behaviors like reckless driving or gambling, those types of behaviors, anger or increased aggression or irritability, disconnecting, and suicidal thoughts are often related to these behaviors. And then what you're more likely to see from women is anxiety or depression, guilt, and then eating disorders or preoccupation with their body. And the ways that we see men and women cope with their mental health are similar. However, there are a few ways that they can differ. So they're more likely both going to deny having any problems and isolate themselves. And as you can see from the slide here, both men have, are more likely to have substance abuse issues for coping, and they may participate in more physical activity, which, that's kind of on a positive note. Same with women, where you can see talking with friends. There are ways that they can cope that are positive. So it's not all bad. It's not all doom and gloom necessarily, but women are more likely to do self-harm or emotional eating. Those are some of the coping mechanisms that they may be using. So it's not all necessarily negative. However, when you start to see expressions in this way, it may be an indication that they're struggling in other ways. And we're going to move into the stigma surrounding mental health challenges. A culture of toughness and downplaying the importance of mental health are two of the contributing factors. Let's just see here. So here's some of the stigmas. Admitting to mental health struggles is often perceived as a weakness, and it deters individuals from seeking support for fear of judgment. There's a prevalent belief that needing help indicates a lack of resilience or capability, contributing to a culture where mental health issues are ignored or hidden. Mental health issues are frequently not seen as a legitimate reason for, I went the wrong way. There we go. For being absent, which can discourage workers from addressing their mental health needs and taking care of themselves. Workers also may fear social exclusion or ridicule from peers. I've been in this industry a long time, and I think I know that when I was on sites, a lot of comments are made in joke, and the reality is when somebody is suffering and these jokes are being made, they take it very personally, and I think it deepens their shame associated with the way they're feeling and feeling more isolated. So I think it's something that we need to be very mindful of. And that's something that starts at the top. It's just a zero tolerance for that type of language, that type of behavior, because when people are suffering, that hits a lot differently than just a joke. And so that in experiencing that can lead to silence and avoidance in discussing or addressing mental health challenges or concerns. And the misconception that mental health issues are rare or non-existent in the field can make individuals feel isolated and abnormal when experiencing such problems. And this, I think, is one of the biggest challenges, because everybody feels like they're alone and nobody is. Like I truly don't know of anybody. I mean, obviously there is a range within which we can suffer. I don't know anybody who hasn't suffered in some way or another with mental health challenges at some point or another. And I think that once we realize that everybody is suffering with something, then maybe we don't feel so alone. And then there's the fear that admitting to mental health issues could harm one's career or lead to job loss, further inhibiting individuals from seeking help. And with all these beliefs around mental health in the construction industry, it's really no wonder why people don't seek the help they need. And I want to highlight here that this stigma or these beliefs are often perceived this way by the one that is suffering. And it's the judgment they place on themselves about this weakness or failure. And it stops them from seeking the help that they could use, that they need. And they just don't give themselves the same grace that they would give a colleague or somebody else around them that would come and confide in them. And I think that this is the whole idea of, you don't treat yourself like your best friend. You treat yourself almost like your worst enemy. And you're really your own worst bully because you don't allow yourself to be human. So let's understand the barriers to seeking help. This, ultimately, we need to be able to remove the barriers so that people can feel free to be able to seek help. So the solution is really multifaceted. However, here we're looking at sort of a two-pronged approach. One is removing the barriers that stop people from seeking help. And two is building a culture where the mental health challenges are considered in the same way as physical health challenges are. So we're going to look at some of those barriers with hopes that awareness will get us to start moving in the right direction. So here are several common barriers that men may experience in seeking help with their mental challenges. And as mentioned, there's often a stigma attached to mental health issues, particularly in that male-dominated industry like construction. And people may feel that seeking help for mental health challenges is a sign of weakness or vulnerability and worry about how their colleagues or employers will perceive them. And depending on their location, people may have limited access to mental health resources or face long wait times to see mental health professionals. So this can also discourage them from seeking help altogether. Treatment can be expensive depending on, what kind of coverage you have, and employers may not provide adequate insurance to cover the cost. So this can be a significant barrier for those who are struggling financially, which is also something we hear a lot about in the construction industry. And taking time off work, particularly if it's in a leadership role or has a significant amount of responsibility, this can make it difficult to prioritize your mental health and seek the time off to attend to appointments or receive treatment. And in some cases, people may worry that seeking help for mental health challenges could put their job at risk. This fear can be particularly acute in industries where employers may not be sympathetic to mental health issues, or it's not an open conversation, or it's not something that's ever talked about, which is common so far in the industry. I think things are starting to change as we have more people having these conversations and more employers are becoming a little bit more understanding to the challenges. And some people may not be aware of the signs and symptoms of mental challenges or their mental health challenges, or may not know where to turn for help. So this can make it difficult for them to recognize that they need support and can prevent them from seeking help, even if they do recognize the signs. The construction industry is, again, that tough guy culture that we mentioned earlier, which can discourage people from seeking help for their mental health challenges. And people may feel that admitting to mental health challenges goes against traditional values of masculinity and worry about being perceived as weak or vulnerable by their colleagues. And the construction industry has a high number of immigrants and in some cases may not speak English as their first language, which can make it difficult for them to access mental health resources or even communicate effectively with mental health professionals. And then finally, there's a lot of people worry that seeking help for mental health issues could lead to others finding out that they're struggling. And this fear can be particularly strong in small or close-knit workplaces where news travels quickly and there's not too much that is secret. So it's important to address these barriers and create a workplace culture that encourages and supports its employees to seek help when they need it. And by reducing the stigma attached to the mental health issues and providing access to resources and support, we can help to improve the mental health and well-being of the people in the construction industry. And one thing that I've learned recently that I've seen recently, and I think is a great opportunity to, again, so what it is, it's a mental health care kit. So where we have a physical first aid kit on site, this is something that would be a mental health first aid kit type of thing. And I think that it can be adjusted. The one that I saw is more of a home-based thing, not commercial so much, but I think we can take the information, the ideas from that, and turn it into something that can be used on a job site, where we have your physical first aid kit and then you have your mental first aid kit, where somebody can go, when they're suffering, and be able to just help themselves manage in the moment. So overcoming the stigma. We need to increase awareness and reduce the stigma associated with asking for help. So there's several strategies that can help people overcome the stigma of that tough guy culture that we seem to have, and seek help for their mental health. And I believe that it starts with our leadership. One of the most important steps is to promote awareness of mental health issues and the impact that it can have on individuals, families, and communities. I think for us not to talk about this is doing a disservice for everybody at every level. And this can help to reduce the stigma if we just normalize these conversations. And make it easier for people to ask for help. It's important to provide resources and information about mental health, such as counseling services or support groups or hotlines. This can help to normalize seeking help and make it easier to access support when it's needed. Encouraging open and honest conversations about mental health in the workplace and in social settings. By normalizing these conversations, people may feel more comfortable sharing their experiences and seeking help. I don't think anybody's going to step up and offer the information. This is one of the things that I think is important for leaders, to be able to set the environment for for it being a safe environment for people to share their challenges, whether it be personally, like just having a one-on-one conversation with your leaders, or if it's with your peers. However that they can facilitate that opportunity, I think is really important. And then to challenge the stereotypes and stigma associated with mental health issues, and that tough guy stereotype that is strong out there. And this can be done through public education campaigns or workshops, training sessions. You can do in-house lunch and learns. Like, there's many different ways that you can bring your people together, have the conversations, and just kind of ease the burden that people may be feeling. And leaders and managers can lead by example by being open to discussing their own mental health challenges. And I say this in a way that, I don't think anybody wants to spew their stuff all over everybody. But when you can break down the barrier of your own experience just by normalizing the conversation and saying, yeah, I've suffered, or yes, I did this, or however, like just admitting that you too have had challenges, then I think that really helps to set that example of what's possible in your workspace. And it needs to be appropriate. And this, I think by doing this, by sharing how you have handled it in the past, can help people either recognize that it's possible, that they too can do it, or that even that is a safe space and you may be a safe person for them to speak to about it. Overall, overcoming that stigma of the tough guy stereotype and seeking help for the mental health challenges is what's really required. And it is a multifaceted approach. There's many different things that need to happen for this to be normalized. And at the same time, I really do believe that it's something that's possible as long as we continue to have these conversations. Self-care. This is one that, prioritize self-care for your personal well-being. And I know, this is something that I think that a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at, or they don't make time for, or they don't really put the value in self-care as much as it's not even just would be nice. It's really required for us to take care of ourselves. And when we recognize that taking care of ourselves first will help everyone around us, not just ourselves, but the people around us as well, like just seeing the value in it, I think is something that we really underestimate. And so you can see here that there's a lot of ways that you can take care of yourself, and it can be as simple as just, hydration, or doing more exercise, having mental health awareness taking a course, meeting with people, surrounding yourself with other people who are willing to talk about it, doing stretching and mobility exercises, practicing good sleep habits, because we saw it, in some of the sources of our challenges can be worsened by poor sleep. And mindfulness or relaxation techniques such as meditating or breathing exercises can be helpful to reduce stress and to improve overall well-being, especially if you are like in the moment and you're feeling that high stress or anxiety or something kick in and you start to feel that panic. Like, just being mindful and focus on your breathing does a world of difference for just bringing down your levels of stress and anxiety. And it's a very simple thing, costs no money, it's free, it's always with you. And it's just learning how to breathe mindfully is can have a huge impact on managing you in the moment. A healthy lifestyle that includes exercise and good nutrition is important for overall wellness. So you can see that some of these things really are a lifestyle choice. And I know that it takes effort and intention to be able to make some of these changes. And at the same time, when you recognize the value of what they bring to your mental health and your well-being, then maybe you'll start to just try. You don't have to do all of them, like just try one of them and see how they work. And the thing is, like the whole breathing thing, like box breathing, I'm not sure if anybody is familiar with it. I'll just share that one quickly because it is a very simple one that does a world of difference. And you don't have to do it for long. Like if you can do this for 90 seconds, it'll change everything. And you just breathe in for a count of 4, you hold it for a count of 4, you breathe out for a count of 4, hold it for a count of 4, breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and that's it. Just do that, just count and breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold. And it's very simple, and it's a tool that you can have with you all the time to help manage any stress, anxiety, and just help you center. So participating in activities that you enjoy, even when you don't feel like it. One of the things that I often talk about is taking your feelings out of the things that you do, and you'll be a lot better off. Because I hear a lot of us say, I don't feel like it, or I'm not going to do that because I don't really feel like it. When you hear yourself saying that, the first thing you want to do is just go do that thing. For one, it'll build your confidence. And for two, you'll be glad at the end of it that you actually did it. So if you hear that popping, I don't feel like it, might be a good indication that that's something that you should do. There's a tool that I also use in those times when I don't feel like it, when I'm really comfortable on the couch doing something and I don't feel like getting up to go work out. Mel Robbins, she has a book that's called The 5-Second Rule, and it's just counting back from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then getting up and doing the thing. By counting backwards from 5, you kind of break the pattern of the feeling that you have, and you can take action. So that's another little tool that you can use to help you break that I don't feel like it and do the thing that you know that you should really do for your betterment, whatever that happens to be. And time management. We often have demanding schedules, long hours, and it's exhausting. So if you can manage your time, prioritize self-care, know exactly when it is that you're going to be taking care of whatever it is that you want to do to take care of you, and make sure you put that in all of your days. And then finally, goal setting. Self-reflection and setting goals are really a powerful tool for just personal growth and self-care. I remember when, after I sold my business at the end of 2017, I went through 2 years of a very dark time for me, because I'm a very goal-oriented person. I like structure, I like routine, I like going for things and working towards something. And in that time, I didn't have anything that I was working towards. I knew I needed to figure out what I wanted to do next, and I had no idea what that was. And it was so hard to get up in the day, to get myself off the couch, to do anything. I played a lot of Food Street is what I did in that time. Let me tell you, I mastered that game. But those are kind of indications that, something's not quite right, is that when you're taking your attention and putting it into something that just takes your mind off your current experience. And when I finally realized what I wanted to do next, it was like everything changed for me because I could set the goals. I could work towards something again. So never underestimate the value of just setting a small goal for yourself. Like even if it is, what you want to get accomplished today, like what is one thing you can do today? Because when you can make a goal, set a little goal, and then reach it, it builds your confidence. And keep the promising to yourself builds your confidence. And these are little things that will contribute to overall well-being and just feeling better about your overall condition. So, and I also know how hard it can be when you're struggling. So one of the things I learned, again, is that whole idea of taking your feelings out of what you do. Like it's a very powerful exercise, and you'll be surprised, at what you're really capable of when you take your feelings out of the things that you do. So let's talk about building a culture of support. And the change, like I said earlier, that change, I believe, starts with the leadership. It's important to build the culture of support within these tough industries. And this can involve encouraging open communication, providing access to resources for mental health support, and prioritizing employee well-being as a key part of workplace culture. And by promoting a culture of, of support and prioritizing employee well-being as a key of, the workplace culture, workers can feel more comfortable seeking help when they need it. And it's also helpful in building stronger relationships within coworkers. There's just a greater connection. And there's several ways that construction companies or trades businesses can create a culture that is more aware and reduces the stigma around asking for help and with mental health issues. And here are a few examples. They can provide education and awareness around mental health and how they can impact workers in the construction industry. This can include training sessions, like I mentioned earlier, informational material just around the office, workshops that are designed to increase understanding and reduce the stigma. Those lunch and learns that I mentioned is another thing that people can do. Very, very manageable, relatively low cost, and with a huge return for the health of the people. And I think that that's one of the things that we don't necessarily look at the value in, is that you may need to make a cash investment in your people for these type of trainings and things, but what you're going to get in return is people who are going to show up to work healthier, more able to focus, more productive, and more engaged. So you may be paying to help them, but on the backside on the backside of that, you'll be having people that will be producing better for you. So it's the return is actually not just a healthier people, but it's going to be greater production on your within your business. And companies can also implement supportive policies that makes it easier for workers to seek help for mental health issues. This can include flexible work schedules, mental health days, and access to mental health resources and services. And it's important for leaders in the company to be vocal about their support for mental health and well-being. I remember when I did have my business, I always talked about, safety first. And I always had conversations. If I saw somebody showed up for work and they didn't seem to be themselves, I was always willing to just, pull them aside and say, hey, is everything okay? Just to let them know that I see you. I recognize that you're not yourself today. And if you need a day for you, have it. Like, we gave mental health days as one of the benefits because we recognize the value in our people taking care of themselves. And I think more leaders need to recognize the value in that. Like, again, it comes back to not just your people feeling better, but they're going to be more productive and they're going to stay longer. It's a retention thing as well. If people feel safe and feel understood within your organization, they're going to be more likely to stick around and stay because they're going to know it's a good place to be. So employee assistance programs is also a good opportunity to provide support, and they can have access to counseling and resources for a wide range of issues, including mental health. And the employee assistant programs can be an effective way to provide workers with the help that they need, while also maintaining confidentiality, so they can just access a hotline or whatever to be able to get the help that they need. And it doesn't have to be emergency help. This can be just a counseling service. It's like having somewhere that they can call to seek the help that they're looking for. And then also, peer support networks can be an effective way to create a supportive culture around mental health as well. Companies can encourage workers to form peer groups or to participate in mental health awareness initiatives that are designed to reduce the stigma and to increase the understanding between coworkers. And I think that also in doing those, having these types of meetings or gatherings, it also helps people to realize that they're not alone. Carrying on here, we can companies can also establish regular check-ins with their workers to monitor their mental health and well-being. And this is not, I don't think it's the employer or the leaders taking responsibility. That's not what this is about. You're not taking responsibility for the health and well-being of your people. What you are is contributing to supporting them to act on their own best interest, to do what it is that they need to do. So by checking in with them, it's not you, if I don't check in and something happens or they don't show up or whatever happens to be, it's not a responsibility for you. It's doing what you can to support them and give them the things that they need. And these types of things can be done through one-on-one meetings or anonymous surveys, even to see how people are doing and just have them report back, and recognizing if people are, in this anonymous surveys, if they are reporting that there are challenges and there's, several of them or whatever, because they are anonymous, it's good to bring everybody together and just have the conversation again. Also, companies can make mental health resources and support easily accessible for workers. And this can include providing information about local mental health services, offering one-on-one counseling as a benefit, or on-site counseling even. Oh, just a second. I'm going to have a... Okay, well, let's see. My computer looks like it wants to die, but I think I'll be okay. And then companies can establish safe reporting mechanisms for workers who are experiencing mental health challenges. And this can include confidential reporting channels where workers can report their concerns about fear of or retaliation of judgment. And then also companies can foster mindful communication practices, promote empathy and understanding, and then taking a holistic approach to mental health overall as part of mental health, physical health, overall health and well-being that recognizes the range of factors, including the physical, the social support that people need, and just the work-life balance that is necessary for people. And providing the support in these areas, companies can promote good mental health and well-being for the workers. I'm just going to make a quick little change here before I lose my battery. Just a second here. Can you still see the screen? Oh.
The slide is moved off just a little bit.
Let me just see here, because I think my computer's about to...
I can see you. There you go.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens here. I only have one outlet for... And so here are some resources. Oops, I think we got... Oops, wrong way. Back. Shoot. We were doing so well. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Let's try this. There we go. So here's some resources. The employee assistance programs. You can take a screenshot of these things. These are Canadian resources. 988, number 2 there, which Tanya had mentioned in the beginning. And then you can take a screenshot of this as well. Construction Industry Alliance for Suicide Prevention. This is a North American-wide resource. And then, of course, there's your local mental health clinics where you can get help. And then there's also a resource called Heads Up Guys, which is also based in the US, but it is a North American-wide resource for men specifically who are suffering from depression or anxiety. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing before I lose my, and that is the end here. Let me see if I can stop sharing. Did that work?
Did.
Am I back? Okay.
You're back.
That was great timing. That's like right at the 45-minute mark. It's like I planned it that way. I'm just going to switch. I'm going to just plug my computer in so I don't lose it. Give me 2 seconds. I am here for any questions that anybody may have, comments, experiences.
I think people can turn off. I'm not sure, Jessica. Maybe you can let me know if people can actually turn their mics on, or do they have to put their questions in the chat?
If they could raise their hand, and then I think I can unmute them, unless
Okay.
I'm pretty sure, unless it's showing that they can unmute themselves, but they can raise their hand and I'll unmute them.
While we're waiting to see if there are any questions, I wanted to ask you, Corley, is there a chance that you'll be able to share, or we can share your slides?
Yes.
With everyone?
Yep.
I think my favorite part, not my favorite part, but I think the part of your presentation that really hits home and things that we can take away is that section on building a culture of support. There was a lot of information there that you gave, and so I think if we can share the webinar, whether it's the video or the slides, that it'll definitely be worth reviewing for people. Maybe we can share it with our colleagues. I like the part where you said, "I see you and I hear you," and I think that's something that we all could do a little bit better on, in particular when we go to work each day. I know that BuildForce Canada, which is an organization that we work closely with, they are working with, it's not ESDC, I think it's Social Development Canada. They're working on a project where they'll be sending out, I guess, an e-learning program, and there'll be some other information, a toolbox sort of thing that will go with it. That's going to be specifically designed for health and safety officers, and best practices that they can use on the job site with regards to mental health, and there's health and safety chats that they have each week, and I guess for small organizations, for the leaders of that organization. So I believe that's still 6 months to a year away, unfortunately. But I did see a presentation recently on it, and I think they've got a lot of great tools coming down the line on that.
And I think that, employers can still be proactive on just doing little things even before something like that comes down, because I think that can enhance a program. It doesn't have to be the basis of the program. So I think that, that's,
I agree.
A good support for that type of thing.
Yeah. I don't know that we have any questions, Jessica. Have you seen any hands raised?
No, I don't.
No. Okay. All right. So Corley, thank you so much. We'll conclude the presentation here and now. Corley, like I mentioned, she is on LinkedIn, and she has a lot of great useful information for the construction industry as a whole, not just on mental health. So I would highly recommend, if you don't follow her on LinkedIn, that you give her a follow, a connection, and we will share the video and the slides with you in the coming days. Jessica will get that out to everyone. So I'd like to thank you all for attending, and realizing and understanding that this is such an important information session. You can't take enough of these sessions. You always learn something new, and it just makes you a better person and a better leader, I think, moving down the road.
I agree. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. It's our pleasure, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.